Maganda sa inyo. Great. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to see a few Spurgeon people here. And I think it's so exciting what's going on here. I was asked to give some of the history of how the Filipino Fellowship got started, and I'm always glad to do that. Back in the early 90s, I was friends with a person, Estelita Arcea, and she had a kidney problem. She was waiting for a transplant, and I had a birth defect in my kidney that I was needing to get taken care of, and so we became friends, talked together, and I thought that she looked kind of lonely and that she could use some emotional support from her own culture, and so I thought, well, maybe we could get the Filipinos together. So I did a survey and asked a bunch of questions and found out they did want to get together. And what was interesting to me was they wanted it over the Bible. They didn't want to just have tea and cookies or something. And so this is a tremendous group. So they got together. I told them I wouldn't be the leader. They needed to get their own leader. And then Dr. Bob Ness became pastor, and at the same time, they met in his home. The group met in his home. And Estelita said that her cousin was coming from the Philippines, and he might be a leader. And so he arrived, and his name was Emilito Hernandez, and he became Pastor Emmy. So that's how all of that happened. So now we have a big Filipino congregation here, and that is so exciting to me to think about what is going on in this church to get different cultures together. That is so exciting to me because I've worked with so many cultures. And if I were here, I would be working on decreasing the communication barriers. Do you all know what a mother tongue is? That's the tongue, the language that you learned as a toddler. Your mother, most likely your mother was speaking to you. So I wanted to find out how many of you have Spanish as your mother tongue. That's what you learned first. Okay. How about French? German? Any of those. How about Ilocano? Yay! We should have lots of hands raised there. How about Tagalog? Yay! Way in the back too. I work with Wycliffe's Bible translators, and we are very much into minority languages. Tagalog is a little bit too big for us. They already have the scriptures. We go to the languages that are really a lot smaller than that, and we listen to the sounds and produce Bibles. There are about, these figures are from 2000 census, about 85 million people in the Philippines, and about 22 million of those speak Tagalog, and 7 million speak Ilocano. And the Ilocano has about 77,000 abroad. Out of 7 million, 77,000 are abroad. And Tagalog, about 2 million are outside of the Philippines. The Ilocano is spoken in northwest Luzon, La Union, and Ilocos provinces. Probably not saying this right. Cagayan Valley, Babuyan, Mindoro, and Mindanao. I know how to say Mindanao. I found out I went to the Friday night service and found out to say no, and you can say Hindi. And I don't know, is that Tagalog or?
Yes.
Tagalog. In my institute, we find out around the world the mother tongue is very important. It's I think of it as the heart language. When I was in the service Friday, Pastor Beltz was speaking in English for me primarily, I think. And then when it came to the emotional part, he switched into Tagalog, and boy, did he go to it. So it's the language of the heart. And I know from experience on the field, if you come across your own language, it's like music to your ears. And if you want to be friends with other cultures, start learning some of the language. Ask them how to say yes in Tagalog. Ask a Filipino that. Learn some of the language. When Dr. Bob Ness was here, he was wise in having the Filipinos meet separately by themselves in their own language. And I think that was the way to go. You need to worship in your heart language. How can you worship really well in somebody else's language? So I hope that in all this bringing cultures together, that we can keep groups so that they're having their own language and they're able to worship in their heart language. And maybe do that until there aren't any people that no longer have any other heart language other than English. So just have a separate group and come together for English. That's what I would like to see. As far as what I do with Bible translators, I should maybe explain. I don't know how many understand about Wycliffe. So there are about 7,000 languages in the world. We've got about 2,000 more to get the gospel to them. To listen to the sounds and make alphabets and get the gospel to them. But we have discovered that it's very hard to teach people to read and write their own language. Even though they have the vocabulary, it's still very difficult. And some people need glasses. And so I work in the department that is trying to get audio and video to these people. So I brought some devices here. When you go out to these minority languages, quite often they don't have electricity. And that's been something to overcome. Jeannie Talcott actually worked with, I think it was a pioneer. I don't really have a full history, but he was one of the first, I think, to get a wind-up cassette player that would play. People could wind it to get it going. This is a digital player. You go like this to charge the battery. And you do this for about a minute, and you can get 4 minutes of audio. And you can plug it into your computer to get your files in there. So that's one thing used on the field. Another thing is, if you don't have electricity, you can be solar powered into this little thing. It's called a mega voice. And it goes through, you can get the whole Bible on here. So my department works at getting products out. Not only devices like this, but products like videos, and also to help people make wise decisions. Like the Jesus film isn't good for everybody. It might be the Luke video is better. And so we kind of help people make decisions. The new thing, the new device, guess what that is? It's a cell phone. Abroad, they've got different cell phones than we do. Here, we can have the iPhone that can have video on it, but abroad, you can have a cheap cell phone and put video on there and then spread it throughout your village using Bluetooth. So that's the new thing in missions, and my department's trying to get caught up on that. When I first went to North Carolina, I was working on the website, but that's on hold now. So now I do a newsletter, kind of the same idea. I still get pages, and eventually my pages may go on to the website if we get that going again. But this goes to about 200 people over the internet interested in getting media, helping oral cultures get media. So, I was going to say, it's nice to be back, and I was realizing the other day that of all the churches I've been in, this is the one I've been in the longest, 15 years. That's a long time for me. So I want to thank you for the past support, all the support you've given me through the years, through my operations and so forth. And thank you for your support for me and what we're doing to get gospel out to these minority language groups. And I pray that God will bless you, and as you come together, bring these cultures together, and He give you wisdom.